All right. Let me check. Volume here. All right, let's check in the chat. All right, who is here with me? All right. Looks like we're doing okay. Let's get ready to rock and roll. Got my water. Let's go to YouTube. Just need to confirm that I got a good audio. So, let's see. My channel. Let's join live. I'm live now. Let's see. Still trying to check the audio. All right, if anybody can drop in the chat and let me know if you can hear my audio, we're gonna get going because it's right at about 4. So, can you hear me is the most important question. Can you hear me? Because I got that projecting. I can't hear it on the TV. I can't hear myself. All right, can you guys hear me? I need to do, oh, actually, you know what? I can do a back end on my YouTube on the audio. I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me because I can't really hear myself. So that's all I'm going to try to check out now. I'm going to try to go to the back end of YouTube, and I'm going to see if there's any indication that I have audio. And if there is, all right, public none. Oh man. Let's see if anybody's got me. All righty. What is this? All right, there we go. Can I go to more options? That's not it. That's not it. Analytics. All right, if anybody could drop in the chat and let me know if you can actually hear me. Man. Let me see. Settings. Let's go to dashboard. Nope, nope, nope. All right, anybody in the chat, if anybody's on with me live, just let me know if you can hear me over in the chat because I am having trouble confirming that I've got good audio. Let me see here. Let's see if I switch this to TV. Hello? See if I switch that over to TV, that helps me. Any audio? Oh, man. All right, let me check one more thing. I might just have to live on with me. Mute microphone. All right, I think I'm on. All righty. Just make sure this is playing on my page. All right, well, we're going to get going, and I usually have some sort of audio going here. So I'm not exactly sure why I can't hear anyone. Actually, let me just check one more thing so I can check on my phone. Forgot about that. See if I can access it from my phone and see. All right, is there any audio here? Let me see. Let's take this off. All right, do I have audio? All right, do I have audio? Got it. We're good. Excellent. All right, cool. We are set. Audio is on. Sorry about the quick little delay. Had a little bit of technical difficulties, but it looks like we are on and rocking and rolling at this point. All right, this is Dr. Lee coming to you from San Diego, and today we're going live as a part of my Persist Institute's live training. So if you are here, awesome. Welcome. Tonight we're going to be chatting about something that I think is going to be very helpful and very timely, if you will, and that is, avoiding these sort of productivity drains that can happen. And so the reason why I wanted to train on this tonight specifically is because through this whole COVID-19 kind of pandemic, many of us have found ourselves with a lot more time than we normally have. So we find ourselves with a lot more time, but then in that same in that same setting, we find ourselves being less productive. And so I'm thinking to myself, how is it that we have more time but we're getting less things done? How is it that we have more free time, we don't have to go as many places, or we can't go as many places, and we're still not getting things done? So I said, okay, well, what is taking our focus? Like, what's taking the focus? And so that's going to be the entire point of this month's training, is training on or teaching on some strategies on how you can avoid time distractors. So how can you avoid productivity drains is what we're going to talk about tonight. And so obviously, time management is a big piece of this. If you are a Persist Institute member, or if you're watching on YouTube, and actually, I almost forgot. Let me go live on Facebook as well. And I almost forgot about that. So I'm going to go live on Facebook just for my Facebook folks as well, because I'm trying to get full reach and talk to as many people as I can and give you guys access to the Persist Institute kind of training, during this time. So I'm going to go ahead and hop on live for my Facebook folks as well. And all right, let's get this going. Here's my live stream. Go live now. I'm going to use my camera and select this, default internal. That's all good. Looks like I'm up. And share to page I manage. Can I go live? New live tab on pages. Man. Well, I thought it was going to be a few clicks. Maybe it's not a few clicks. Let's see. Use camera. So let's use camera. There we go. My camera's on. And my audio's on. So why can't I just hit switch to previous version? Yes, please, because this is, I can't find what I'm looking for. That's what I want. You know what? I think I'm going to abort this. I thought this was going to be easy, but it is not. Facebook has made it a lot more complicated than I'm used to. So, thought I was going live. So copy this. Let's do this. Paste and let's go. Yep, it's not going. Man. Your browser you're using doesn't support the camera feature for Live Producer. Okay, so that's what's going on. All right. So long story short, we're not going to be able to do that. But anyway, here we go. All right, let's get back to the training. Sorry about that. So I wanted to go on Facebook, but we're going to go on YouTube exclusively. All right, so we're talking about productivity drains, how to avoid productivity drains, how do we make the most out of the time that we're in. And so today I'm specifically going to be talking about productivity drains. Okay, so if you're within Persist Institute now, I have a training in a membership area on time management. It talks exclusively about time management, some of the hacks that I've used in my life to get lots of things done. And when I want it to be really effective in the use of my time, I train on some of the things that I actually do to be effective. So I'm not going to repeat that training in its entirety, but I wanted to start out with, hey, time management is very critical. Why is time management so important? Okay, and so it's a big piece of being effective because you need to be able to master your time or manage the time that you spend on each element. Okay, so I talked last month about introducing a schedule or a structure into your day when you don't have it. So we're talking time management. How do you manage your time? How do you master your time? The first thing you need to do, and I'm going to blaze you this, is you need to introduce some sort of structure into your day. So instead of waking up and trying to figure out what you're going to do, this includes you looking, and I recommend that people schedule out all of their work hours. So every awake hour, what you're doing, even if it's free time, even if you're not doing anything, schedule that so that you still know that you're on task even in your free time. So I'm a proponent of scheduling everything. So if you see my schedule, everything that I'm doing is there. Gym, home, this sort of live training, following up on emails, everything is actually in my schedule. And the reason why I do that is because I believe every waking moment is important, and it's important enough for you to have some sort of structure. Like I said, and free time is also important. So people, get a little, worried about scheduling all their time. I say, don't worry about it. At the end of the day, you're going to schedule free time as well. So just because you schedule every moment doesn't mean you don't have free time. That's not necessarily, they don't equate. Okay, so you don't, just because you're scheduling everything doesn't mean you don't have free time. You actually put your free time in your schedule. Okay, so by introducing structure into your day, now you're able to stay on task even when you're off. Okay, so even when you're relaxing. Okay, so I hope you get that. So one of the key things to productivity, aside from time management, is actually staying on task. So not only have I introduced this new structure, I've introduced this new schedule or this time mastery component to my life or my day. Now I've, said, hey, for the next hour I'm going to write, how do I stay on task, right? How do I stay on task in those moments and in that moment and avoid distractors, okay? So, or productivity drains. And so I've learned these from an array of things, but, I want to start first off with, look, this phone right here. So, many people, we're with this all the time. I have mine with me right here. Our phones are always with us, and you say to yourself, how much does the phone actually distract me from what I'm doing? And so I'm just going to tell you tip number one, turn the phone off, okay? Turn your phone off, turn the actual notification, turn it off, turn the actual phone off. Because, here's why I say turn it off. And, if I've got a family and, obviously if somebody needs to know where you are, needs to know that you are safe and all those things, absolutely, that is important. So, if I'm going to turn my phone off or if I'm going to be in a productivity mode, like say when I'm writing or say when I was in medical school, when I was studying, my phone was off in my bag. It wasn't where I could see it flash or it would, it was off in my bag. That was away from me even worried about catching the light flashing on it. So, oh, did I get a notification, right? Because, notifications are just destroying people. And the reason why is because, you think it's a little thing to go and, and take your attention from a task and then look at a screen, and you think that's not eating up your productivity, even if it's a quick second to reply for a text, but it does, because kind of that mental flow or that mental stream that you were in gets disrupted completely, and now you have to focus on and process new information. So that's kind of turning your productivity to taking it to a complete halt and then trying to come back and trying to get in the flow of what you were in before. So that's why interruptions are so detrimental to productivity, because even when you come back to the task, it will take you a certain amount of time to get back to the flow that you were in before. So one thing is absolutely turn your phone off. And so I don't want to harp on how much of a productivity drain interruptions are, but I'll just suffice it to say, every time that you interrupt yourself when you're working on something, you waste time when you come back to that task, because now you have to try to get back in the same flow. And that's why I encourage minimize your distractions. And so the phone I wanted to start with, because it's a biggest drain. You could get a message on Instagram and you could go into warp Instagram timeline, explore page mode for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and then you wake up and you're like, oh, what just happened? Now 30 minutes is gone. Okay, so one of the easiest ways to do that is to turn the phone off. And so that leads me to my next thing is, many times we believe in it's common wisdom to say, multitasking or doing multiple things at once helps you to be more efficient. It helps you to make the most of your time. If I've got this one thing uploading and, I go ahead and, shoot this video or I send this email out while this is going, I'm making the most of my time. I am being productive. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly, because again, from switching tasks, you're going to decrease your productivity. But also, I have found in my life that I get the furthest distance in productivity. I get the most things done when I'm focusing on one thing. So I'm a proponent of, we all have things we have to do in different areas of our life, but I'm a proponent of doing one thing at a time. So I've written 2 books, but I didn't write both of the books at the same time. I wrote one, right? I knocked out that book, and then I wrote another book. Okay, so but you can do multiple things, but you just need to do them one at a time. And so I'm a big proponent of not multitasking, completely honing in on a single task until that task is complete, or until my mark for the day is complete. Then I'm able to move to the next task with my full mind because I know that there's completion to the last task. So one of the things with multitasking and bouncing back and forth is that even as you bounce to a next one and you have something else, a piece of your brain or a piece of your focus goes there. Okay, because you can't completely focus because you're actually multitasking. You may shift your attention here, but a portion of your brain is still going to pay attention, if you will, to the other tasks that you have going on. And so this is just simple, kind of neuroscience and studies on focus and attention span of the human brain and what we're actually, intended to do. And the reason why I say that is because the human brain is very, very good at ignoring the unimportant. So our brain, if you will, has evolved to ignore non-essential things that aren't completely at our focus. And we have an enormous ability to avoid or to ignore things as we focus, right? Because if you look at in your mind, or if you look at in your peripheral, if you look at your field of vision, and there's so many things that you have in your field of vision, but when you're paying attention to one thing, you're able to focus on one thing and look right. It's like, I'm looking right at the camera eye, right? But I'm maybe at this point it's unconsciously, but I'm ignoring all of the other things that are there. Right? There's sounds going on. There's a buzzing from a light. There's all kind of things that I could be paying attention to, but your brain is trained to selectively ignore the non-essential in the moment. All right? And so because our brains are like that, our brains are wired to ignore non-essential. When we try to multitask, that's working against what our brain's meant to do, right? We're meant to be able to focus, right? We're meant to be able to focus. There's an underlying attention or awareness, but there's not a focus on it, okay? And so that's what I'm talking about with multitasking. Avoid multitasking. Turn the phone off, one. Next thing is, don't fall into this trap of thinking, hey, multitasking is the thing for me, because multitasking it actually leads to less productivity, okay? So we talked about a little bit about time management and how introducing a schedule is essential if you want to maintain productivity. So I got time management, I have my schedule. Now I'm in this time block of my schedule that says I'm supposed to be writing during this time. And how do I stay on task during my 20-minute writing period or my 30-minute writing period or my 40-minute writing period, whatever it is, right? Okay, so the next thing is, as you schedule your blocks of productivity time, you don't want to make it, unrealistic, if you will, saying, I'm going to write for 10 hours straight. No one's going to write for 10 hours straight. Lectures in colleges aren't for 10 hours straight. Most of the science shows that we are able to sit and pay attention, at the max, 20 to 30 minutes at a time before we will want a break, or our brain will want to some sort of rest period, okay? So as far as staying completely inattentive without having any sort of distraction thoughts coming in, 20 minutes is a good, 30 minutes is a good span. So, most of the lectures that we'll go to in college, about an hour, then we're going to switch, okay? So you're looking at maybe, 30 minutes, a quick break, then another 30 minutes. That's your lecture right there. Boom, there you go. You switch to the next task, right? So the hour is probably the max of what you want to do. And I would even encourage you take 15 to 20-minute chunks and give yourself an intentional, maybe 5-minute reset in between those 15 to 20 minutes of work time. All right, so we're talking about chunks of productivity time within your day, and then within that chunks of productivity time, giving yourself intentional maybe 2 to 5 minute breaks every 20 to 30 minutes so that you can stay productive, because the brain needs to rest. So the brain definitely needs this kind of a time to reset so it can come back refreshing and go back to focus. And as a flight surgeon in the Air Force, I was lucky enough to get to school, get to train at the School of Human Performance in the Air Force. And one of the things that they trained us on, because as a flight surgeon, I was responsible for assessing the pilot's ability to fly the jet, you know, if they were physically fit to fly the jet. And then there's physiology associated with the length of what we call sorties, or the length of the flight. You know, how long could we have the pilot fly up, and how long could we have them fly without seeing a decrease in performance or a decrease in attention? You know, there's science behind all of that. You know, how long can a human stay focused on one task without exhibiting signs of fatigue and exhibiting signs of, you know, kind of burnout or mental exhaustion, if you will. So, you know, I've kind of geeked out on this a little bit as a flight surgeon, and dealing with you know, sleep patterns and crew rest, if you will, how we scheduled the sorties, when the pilot would go to sleep, when they would wake up, what was their show time, you know, what from show time to you know, in the jet, when we stepped to the jet, what was their show time, what was the step to the jet time, what was the time on the runway, when did we have them integrated into the cockpit, when were they taken off? Okay, so all these things were hacked. And we knew, okay, here's the max that we're able to have this pilot fly without him coming back trying to land after extended period of time and exhibited signs of fatigue, and, you know, us having maybe a mishap or a crash or something like that. So, you know, for me, these time hacks are huge. You know what I mean? And I love it. So I've taken what I've learned in my professional life as a flight surgeon in aerospace medicine, and I've kind of used that to train on productivity in kind of the regular world, if you will, or non-aviation world. And so that's where a lot of this stuff is coming from. Okay, guys. So we have our hacks. So, you know, first thing, make sure you turn your phone off. Second thing, make sure that you are purposely not trying to multitask. Multitasking splits our brain bandwidth, if you will, into two tasks instead of taking the whole bandwidth and focusing it on one task. Okay, so we got those are some of the productivity hacks, and so you know, avoiding these is kind of the main piece. And so I want to reiterate that we want to try to schedule everything. So yes, we have social media. Social media is a big deal, you know, for us. You know, people are on Instagram, Facebook, you know, Twitter, Snapchat, all these things. And you say, well, do I need to schedule a time to do that? I would schedule a time to do your social media interaction and engagement, if you will. You know, if you're an entrepreneur and you're running your social media aspect of your company, I would encourage you to, you know, schedule your time to engage in social media. We all have that desire. A lot of us have the desire to go in there. You want to go and see what's going on, it's connect with friends and all that, but don't let that connection and activity be at the expense of your productivity. Okay, so how do you do that? You schedule it all in. Schedule that in. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit. I've touched on this a little bit from, you know, in a physiological standpoint. I talked a little bit about, you know, the pilots and flying and things like that. But you also want to, you know, optimize, you know, how you plan to do work. And so the work that we all have to do, there's different components to it. Sometimes it's, you know, actually going somewhere and taking something and dropping something off, doing a physical task. Sometimes it's, you know, hey, I'm working out and I'm using my hands and my feet and I'm running. You know, many other times it's I'm on the computer writing. Sometimes it's on the phone talking to someone. And so what you want to do is you want to optimize your environment for the type of work that you're doing so that you can, you know, you can avoid these drains. And so, you know, having your workspace set up optimally is one thing, but also having your physiology set up and optimized is also another thing. So if you're in Persist Institute, you know, I have an entire training on physiology, revitalizing routines, you know, hop in the members area and look at the training on how do you create a revitalizing routine so that you are in an optimal physiological state, so when you go to your task, you're able to bring the most energy and be the most productive in that moment, and you're not, worried about, I can't, I'm sitting right, or I'm tired, or I'm sleepy, or I'm yawning, and all these things. Okay, so physiology is a big piece as well, but I'm not going to dive too much into that. Right now, I just want to give you some tips and some strategies on how to be as productive as you can. So now that you have the structure in place, now that you have your time hacks, now that you have your intentionally scheduled downtime, the next thing I would say is a motivational piece, which is giving yourself small goals to attain throughout the day so that you're motivated to get more things done. And let me explain that from avoiding a drain, because there's different strategies to avoid productivity drainers. And one of the strategies is additional motivation, being more motivated to complete the task. So how do you become more motivated to complete the task? One of the strategies that I use is to create small wins for myself. So if I say for myself, I intentionally plan to do X, Y, Z today, or X, or 1, 2, 3 today, I try to start making momentum early in the day because I want to continue to win throughout the day. So I start off with a really simple task in the morning. And, there's a great book, I think it's called like Make Your Bed or something like that by, I think it was a Navy SEAL commander, or maybe a Navy admiral. And he talks about the advantages of making your bed in the morning. And it psychologically, what that does to you, if you have a simple win in the morning, it gives you this kind of positive affirmation that you have what it takes to get things done during the day. So the simple act of making your bed is a one win. In the first 15 minutes of the day, I already won because I've already made my bed for the day. So it's like, boom, I'm winning. Now let me keep winning throughout the day. Okay, so small hacks. So how do you do that? Small goals that are attained early in the day. So, right now, if you're not going into the office and say you have class or you got video meetings to do throughout your day, I would encourage you to wake up earlier than when you are required to be somewhere or show somewhere, and start getting little wins in early in the day. And so as you get these little wins in, you're able to take those wins and take that momentum. So that's what I call creating momentum throughout the day. So this is also another strategy to avoid drain, because the more motivated I am, the more focused I am on getting this task done. Because if it's a small task, then it takes me 20 minutes to do it because I've broken it down appropriately. Now, all I have to do is stay focused on this task for 20 minutes, and then I get another tick for my day that I got these things done. So I hope you're following me on how early wins in the day can lead to more productivity. It can lead to you being more motivated during those chunks of time that you have intentionally put into place. You've intentionally made smaller goals, right? So if it's a smaller goal and it's only going to take me 15 to 20 minutes to do it, I'm a lot more motivated to knock that out. Just go ahead and knock it out because, okay, I get a break in 20 minutes. Okay, let me go ahead and knock this out. Okay. So I hope that's helpful. I hope, I hope some of these hacks are helpful for you because, and I hope that, you're getting some value out of this right now. So let's move to kind of the next piece of, productivity drains. And so I talked about optimizing your workspace, where you work at. Hey, are you standing up? Are you sitting down? Is your chair appropriate? Are you, working where you got your neck cocked, the wrong way the whole time? How do you have your workspace set up? That's going to help you avoid productivity drains too, because if your neck's hurting because you're like this, now you're doing these little breaks every 20 minutes because your neck is hurting because you're ergonomically, all messed up. Just having your workspace set up is a one way to avoid productivity drains. And the next thing I would say is the time of day that you actually plan to get different tasks done. So there's some tasks that will be more exhausting, that will need, more physical kind of activity or more brain power, if you will, or more concentration. And so I would encourage you to schedule those things where you need the most concentration. So I like using examples of writing books because a lot of people ask me, how do you write a book? How'd you write a book? How'd you get it done? How'd you write so much? How'd you sit down? How'd you schedule it? How'd you plan it? One of the strategies that I use in figuring out the time I was going to write was to align my most productive times of the day, my most alert times of the day. I match that up with the most needed concentration task. So if it's writing, I knew that I was my most optimistic, I was my most energetic, in the morning after a workout. So most of my writing was right after I worked out. Then I would jump in. I was the most optimistic. My endorphins were flowing because I just exercised and I was ready to go. So then that's when I would be boom, 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 knocking out the writing, zoned in completely. And I was able to get things done. So you want to optimize your time of the day. So if it's something like, hey, I got to go run an errand, I got to go to the mall, or I got to go to the store, I got to go get gas, things like that. Those are things where, you've been driving a long time. You can drive on pretty much autopilot. You don't need the sort of, intention focus as you do when you're trying to write, as you do when, you're going out and about and getting, picking up the groceries and stuff. So, I would encourage you to do the grocery things, during times where you're not in your kind of optimal. Don't waste that optimal kind of time throughout the day at the grocery store picking up what you need, because it's a task that needs to be done, but it's not a task that's going to need your entire facility. So I like to talk about writing and, things like that, or, your work time. I like to align those if you have this ability. Now, obviously, if you're working and, you got to work with what you got, right? So if your work time is 9 to 5, well, that 9 to 5 is going to be dedicated to work. So you say, outside of that 9 to 5, when am I most productive? Am I most productive in the evening, or can I be more productive in the morning since you have employment? Okay, so this is all relative to what you have available to you. But now during this quarantine, we have a lot of time available to us. So then I would encourage you to, just kind of, do assessments throughout the day. When am I the most optimistic? When am I the most energetic throughout my day? And let me put my most trying task, let me attach that to that time, okay? And another strategy when you talk about the time of day that you do things is, I am a proponent of, knocking out the thing that I'm most likely to put off. I am a proponent of knocking that out early in the day, and that kind of leads to that productivity momentum that happens, because if you put off the most challenging thing or the thing that you don't want to do the most, if you put that off to the end of the day, it's more likely not to get done. Opposed if it's on the schedule in the morning and you've intentionally decided I'm going to do the hard things in the morning, make my momentum in the morning, then at the end of the day I do the easier things, then that's another productivity hack where you can avoid, these sort of draining, these productivity drains. Because if you leave the difficult tasks at the end of the day, now you've already used up your kind of decision making and brain power most of the day. End of the day, you're tired, you're fatigued. Okay, it gets pushed off to the next day, right? So I hope you understand where I'm coming from on that. So I am sharing, so many different strategies for you to be productive throughout your day. So this isn't just, making sure you get your sleep. Yes, sleep is important. Obviously, if you're sleep deprived, you're not going to be able to be productive. You're not going to be able to be optimistic. Obviously, fatigue has lots of other side effects to it. So obviously, yeah, you need to get your sleep. But you get your sleep, but then, how do you even structure your work day or structure your time so that you can be the most productive? And that's what I'm talking about in this training here. So I hope this is helpful for you. I hope that I'm giving you some things that you're able to kind of implement immediately so that you can get the most out of your time and be productive. Because at the end of the day, The reason why I like to train on productivity, the reason why I think this is important is because we all have things we want to do with our life. And so if I can give you tools that are going to allow you to produce more in life, allow you to be prolific in your kind of content creation, if you will, if I can give you things that will allow you to produce more in the world, then I'm lifting the world up, I'm lifting the productivity. And obviously, the more you produce, the better you're going to feel. The more you produce, the better you're going to be compensated. The more you produce, the more you're able to inspire others. So this isn't just, hey, get more things done in day to day. Use the simple act of you making yourself more productive is a upward spiraling kind of activity for the entire world. And so I kind of see that. So I see it at the granular level, but I also see it at the 50,000 foot level of, if each individual becomes more productive, here's how we can lift the world. Here's how we all can rise together, right? Is when we all are being productive. Okay, so I hope that that has been helpful for you. Now, I wanted to kind of wrap up the training today because we're right at about 4:40, and let me see. I just want to make sure we're at about 40 minutes or so right now, 45 minutes. If there is anyone that is on right now, and let me hop on really quick. I'm going to hop on IG I'm going to go live on IG to see if I can get some questions. If you're on YouTube, great. Let me put this up here so I can go live on IG really quick so I can get all my chats up. I want to answer, some questions for folks. If you got questions on productivity, if you have questions on how you can be more productive in your day, if you have questions on, how you can get more things done in your life. And so I've got Instagram up. I've got YouTube live up right here. Hop in and ask yourself ask me questions on productivity. So, if you got some questions, hop on in there. If not, I can just get moving with the rest of the content and we'll wrap up. And so, I've talked a little bit about the high level, why you need to be productive. I've talked about how the world will benefit by you being productive. I've talked about how you inspire other people by being productive. I've talked about how you gain confidence by being productive. I've talked about how gaining momentum throughout your day will allow you, right, to, if you get early wins in the morning of the day, you knock out more tasks throughout the day, you're able to get a lot more things done. And so, that's one of the main questions a lot of people ask me is they say, wow, you've been able to write 2 books, you finished medical school, you finished business school, you got a family, you got 5 kids, you travel and you speak, like, how do you do this? And what's going on now? What's up? Yeah, so that's one of the main questions I get. And so everywhere that I go, everyone can kind of look at accumulation of things that I've been able to do. People can look at the accumulation and say, wow, and make an assumption that, I did a lot of things at one time, but at the end of the day, the truth is that it's been, one thing after another thing after another thing. And so the structure of my day, the structure of my life, the structure of my time has allowed me to be productive. And so I find myself training a lot on productivity and being productive. And it's some very simple aspects that some people, might think are extreme. So the fact that I am encouraging you to schedule your day, schedule everything that you do, some folks think that's unheard of. Like, it's like, what? Schedule everything? What? I would say yes. It seems extreme. It seems like a lot, but the fact that I've been able to schedule those things, right? Schedule in my free time. The fact that I've been able to do that has allowed me to get a lot more things done. So if you're in on Insta, if you're in on YouTube Live, hop in the chat. If you got any productivity questions, how do you get things done? Drop them in the chat really quick, and I'll try to address a few while I'm going to stay on here. But globally, you owe it to yourself to produce in the world. You owe it to the world to produce. Right? Your dreams, aspirations that you have, you owe it to yourself to bring that forth. You owe it to yourself to have wins in those areas. And so if you have mastered productivity, if you've mastered your time management, you've mastered your time, that allows you to be more effective in the world. That allows you to do more good in the world, okay? And that allows you, honestly, to be intentional with your life. So the reason why I'm a big proponent of you scheduling out your days, because I believe that every waking hour, every breath that you have is important. Every hour that you've been given is important. I really believe that. I don't believe that the fact that you have this time, that it's not, there's no intention for that time. There's no reason for that time. There's purpose aligned in all the time that we've been given. The only difference between folks that are able to get a lot of things done and people that don't is intention. It's pure, simple intention. So if you are more intentional in your day than someone else, you will be more productive. Okay? So let me... What's going on, Tony? How you doing? Thank you for the question, my man. I love you, bro. Let me see. At what point in your life did you realize you needed more structure? That is an amazing question. And my answer is, hopefully you'll be happy with it. You might not. But, I realized I needed more structure. I intentionally realized it when I got actually into after undergrad. And the reason I say after undergrad, when I started, right before I started medical school, the reason why I hadn't realized that beforehand is because structure had been put in place for me. And I can just answer for me. Structure had been put in place for me because I played sports. I played sports and I went to school. So as a high school athlete, everything was planned for me. My day when I went to school was planned. I didn't have to intentionally do anything. When I had practice, it was planned. Didn't intentionally have to do anything. When we had a game, everything was planned. All that stuff was planned. Study hall was planned. All those things were planned for me. So the structure was already in place. So I grew up with the mindset that a structure was going to come externally for me. Then I get taken out. College, I played sports, same thing. It was just a higher level. And then once I got out of college, it was like, what do I do? You know what I mean? What do I do with my time? So I didn't realize that intentionally until right before I started medical school. And, my post-bac program before I started medical school was a very difficult year for me, rigorous academically. And that was when I realized that without the structure, it was going to be difficult for me to get things done because I didn't know when I was going to do things. But with the structure, I knew when I was going to do it. And so it took for me to introduce that structure on myself when I had the free time. I had all this free time. I had to put the structure on myself. And so somebody would say, oh, well, what are you doing? And if I didn't have any structure, I'd be like, yeah, what's up? What you want to do? Okay, cool, let's do it. But when I had structure, it was like, okay, hey, you want to do this? You want to talk? Okay, I'm taking a break at 6 or whatever. Let's talk then. I can talk to you then because, hey, that's when I'm going to take a break. That's when I intentionally have freed up some time to do these things. Okay, so, for me, it was when, I was zoned in trying to get, trying to take my academic game to the next level, trying to get into medical school through this post-bac program. That was the year. So I was probably like 25 when I really realized that structure was going to be beneficial to me. And so, a lot of people look at schedules, they look at structure as restriction, and I don't necessarily look at it as a restriction. I look at it as liberation. It liberates me. It liberates me from not being productive. It liberates me from a feeling that I'm not getting the most out of my life. It liberates me from this worry at night when I can't go to sleep because I'm worried about the stuff that I have to do. It liberates me from all of that. So my schedule actually gives me more freedom because as I schedule, it frees up my brain power. I'm not worried because I've scheduled when I'm going to do things. I've addressed everything in my schedule. All right, guys. So I hope this, that it is, I hope this has been beneficial because, for me, I'm a huge proponent of helping people live their dreams, helping people get the most out of their life, helping people bring the most value to the world. And if you are struggling with productivity, if you are struggling with getting things done, that is one of my gifts. One of my gifts is helping folks introduce structure, introduce a framework into your life. And that's one of the things that for our Persist Institute members, that's one of the things that's really huge. So if you're not a Persist Institute member, if you're not a member, there's within the membership, I'm coming alongside people. I'm doing coaching calls with people, every Persist Institute member. You do go through a goal assessment. I do a call with you. I talk about what you're trying to do. We talk about a structure. We say, hey, we're going to attack this one first. We're going to do this one next. It kind of takes this big, I need to get all these things done, and I can help you address all of those in your schedule. And that's what a lot of us need is that structure. So, hey, yeah, I was able to kind of introduce that structure onto myself, but it was a lot easier when I had someone else kind of help me. And so that's what Persist, that's what Persist Institute, one of the aspects of Persist Institute is to help you to be more productive by introducing more structure and having someone from an accountability standpoint come alongside and help you to do that. Absolutely, Tony. I appreciate it, man. If anybody's got any other questions, absolutely. If anybody's got any other questions on YouTube, on Insta, if you got any productivity questions, how do you get more things done? How can I be more productive? Or if you got any hangups, if you got any things that you feel like are in your way, or you feel like are obstacles for you to overcome, or things that are standing in your way of productivity, hop those in the chat as well. And I'd love to share my thoughts if you guys have any questions for me. I'm going to be on for about 5 more minutes, and we're going to wrap up. So. Quickly, if you've heard about Persist Institute, great. If you want to learn more about it, you can go to persistinstitute.com. I've opened up enrollment, and I'm bringing more people into the institute. So the institute as a whole it's a group kind of mastermind structure. Okay, I got one question here. So how do you say no without feeling guilty? I run into this sometimes. Yes. Oh my goodness, that is so good. That is such a good question. And he asked, how do you say no without feeling guilty? And how I address this in my life is I have learned, or what has helped me the most is having a clear set of priorities. So, and it'll be one main priority, right? And then every priority then after that is hierarchied below that for me, okay? And so if it's a hierarchy of what is the priority, just to give you an example from my life, priority is kind of a moral priority, right? So it's like, okay, how do I live on my faith? All right, first thing is that. So if I'm looking at priorities and somebody asks me to do something, the first thing that I check with is my priority, right? And if it's not aligned with my priority, then I'm able to say no in a way that is consistent with what, I'm trying to do with my life. And so here is what I learned about people, posing or putting agendas on your life. Here's what I have learned. you want to, one, make sure everyone around you understands your agenda. Everyone around you understands what you're trying to do with your life. Everyone around you understands what you are about. If they know what you're about and they're coming to you with something that is counter to what you are about, they already know that. That's going to check them before the offer even comes to you. That's going to check them before they even ask you. Now, everyone has their agenda. Everyone has what they want you to do with your life, what you want, how you're going to help them. Everyone has that. But one of the approaches that I use, Tony, is I make sure everyone knows what I'm about. I'm about this. So, if folks ask me to do things when it's family time, I have no problem saying no. And I will tell them a priority for me is spending time with my family. You asked me to do this at this time on this day. That's when I spend time with my family. Now, I don't always give an excuse. I don't always give an explanation to why I'm saying no. And, not giving an explanation is also liberating, because people expect for you to explain why you're saying no. One of the things that, and one of the tasks that I talk about, in Persist in the book is when you say no, not giving an explanation, in feeling that uncomfortable and being comfortable. You know your value system. You know the priority set you went through. You know the decision, tree that got you to say no. You don't always have to explain that. You don't always have to explain it. They can ask you if this is what you're about and you can say no, end of it, right? The conversation can go a little bit more, but it's a great exercise because it helps you to be okay and sit in that uncomfortableness, but know that you are serving your higher priorities at all times with your life, because your life, it really matters. Now, if it's something that you can table, if it's something that you want to do but you can't do right now, then you can offer an out, saying, hey, come back to me in a month or 2 months or whatever. You can offer an out for that, but say, okay, I'm focusing on my priority in this moment. And it looks like I had a question. It says, the pandemic has significantly impacted my productivity because I'm now homeschooling and still trying to maintain my practice. Okay, struggling with productivity. Okay, so absolutely. So the main thing, Ronette, that I would say is, with the homeschooling, is to introduce the structure into the homeschooling. So if it's because the structure is there, the answer is in the structure. So if it's the homeschooling, you say to yourself, what time am I going to homeschool? What time are we going to do each activity? Because it's already done at school. They do it already. So it's like, okay, this is first period, second period, third period. So my encouragement to you would be structure out when the homeschooling is taking place, structure out when the activities are taking place. And then if possible, I don't know how old your kids are, but if possible, as you do the homeschooling, take care of that task, you can free up time to do other things for you to be productive. That's one. Second piece is knock out the big things earlier in the day before the kids are up. Now, I know, I'm an early person, so I always lean toward that. Some people are night owls. My wife's a night owl. I go to bed early. That's when she, starts doing her work and gets things, and that's her quiet time, and she reads and all that stuff at night. I go to bed, 8:30. Look, I got no problem going to sleep because I'm an early bird, so I want to wake up early. So my encouragement, and one of the things that I do in my life, is I try to be productive when the children are asleep. I got 5 kids. I got 4 kids at home. I got, my 13-year-old stays in Texas, and I've got my 5-year-old, my 4-year-old, and I have twins. And so, making sure that they're in a structure, creating structure. What time do they go to bed? Well, this is bedtime. We know this is when we're going to bed. So, that structure is the answer. And that's the first thing I would say. So if you say, hey, I'm not able to be productive, then I would say, well, let's look at your structure. Let's look at the schedule. I would say, let's look at the schedule. What time you wake up? When do you go to sleep? Okay, have you structured out? What time you guys eat lunch? What time you do the instruction? So, that would be kind of my first thing is my challenge would be, and my encouragement would be, is to structure all of your time, even the productivity time, even the workout time, even the downtime or the relaxation time. Absolutely, yeah. You know, Ronette, my mom was a single mom too. I was raised by a single mom. I get it. I absolutely get it. And you know, part of that is also, and I don't know how old your kids are, but part of that is also, you know, making sure that your children know your priorities, right? Because when I was watching when I grew up, you know, my mom was a single mom. When I grew up, watching her, I watched her go through nursing school, and you know, one of the things, even at a young age, because I was, you know, first, second grade, I understood that mommy was studying, and that she was doing this because she was in school. She wanted to become a nurse. She explained that really clear to me. So, you know, if I saw her at the table with her books, it was kind of an understanding that, you know, for me to support mommy, for me to support what she's trying to do, you know, I need to be quiet. I need to do whatever. And so that was an understanding that even I had at a really young age. So, I hope that was helpful to you. All right, guys. So we're coming up on 5. I appreciate the engagement on Instagram. I hope this was very helpful for you guys. Again, if you want to learn more about Persist Institute, just go to persistinstitute.com. There's several levels of engagement that you can sign up for. The basic level is a monthly fee of $47 a month, and with that you get group calls. With that you get coaching calls with me. With that you get live training and instruction and assessments on the back end. So you kind of come into this ecosystem of support for you to get those things. So, you know, if you're interested in, you know, gaining momentum during this time, if you're interested in introducing more structure into your day, if you're interested in, you know, getting a clear linear path on how to get from where you are to where you want to be, if you're interested in bringing folks in to help guide you through that, that is what Persist Institute does. That is what I do as a coach. That is one of my gifts, and that's why I love training on these topics. Okay, guys, so I hope this was helpful. Instagram, appreciate y'all. YouTube, appreciate you. If you got any questions, reach out to me at Dr. Clarence Lee Jr. on all the social medias. Inbox me. I'm here to help. This is what I love to do. This is a passion that I have. And we will see you guys next month. If you haven't joined my email list, hop on clarenceleejr.com. Just go to my website. Right there's a bar. Hop on my email list. I'll be sending out free training for everybody, mostly in goal ascertation, like how do I attain my goals? How do I move closer in my life to what I want? How do I be as productive as I want to be? How do I become the person that I want to be? And that's what Persist Institute is about. All right, guys. So I hope this helped you. God bless. God speed. Until next time, keep pressing. Later. All right, guys. Alrighty. In that. And let me hop over here. Saying goodbye.